Hello, Mommy. Hello, Mama J.
Hi,
Good evening,
Dr.
Mommy.
K. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I'm
Welcome to my
very
living
good.
room. Welcome to my living
Good.
room. It's the same living room that you know. I haven't moved since you visited, so same nice house, same nice vibes, the way you left it.
You're looking good, by the way.
Thank you, Mommy. Yeah, so welcome everyone to my show. Today we are having a conversation with my godmother, Apostle Dr. Thelma Tlhaselo-Majela. Welcome, Mom, and thank you for making time to speak with me today. So I'm
You're
gonna take
welcome.
you back to where we met. I think you and I met 20 years ago. That's
Oh
a
dear.
milestone. 20 years ago, we met. I think I had just moved to the UK for my studies, and we ended up living together. You were doing your PhD, I was doing my undergrad. I was an undergrad. You became a mother, a friend, a mentor, and you have continued to be my source of inspiration. I'm even feeling emotional. And I think I want to share your wisdom with other people. So I just decided that, your journey is really inspirational to a lot of people. And that's why I found it fit to have you on the show today. um,
Thank you. Thank you very much. You spoke a lot of good about me. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. But before we go any further to talk about you, today is about you. Today is all about you. I would like for you to start by introducing yourself. Tell us who Thelma is. Who is Thelma Majela?
I grew up basically in Ramos. So I just I'm just a local girl born and bred in a village called Ramotswa in Botswana.
Yeah.
Brought up by my two parents and my brothers and cousins around. I've got a whole big family around me. Yeah. I received a lot of love from my deceased parents and my brothers. Like I said, I was born and bred. I went to school in Ramotswa. All my primary school, I went to Ramotswa. Ramotswa in a Catholic school, standard 1 all the way to standard 7. And then I went to Meding College, where I did my Form 1. It was a boarding school, Form 1 all the way to Form 5. Then I transferred to the University of Botswana.
So tell us about what you do currently. What are you busy with? What are you?
Wow, currently I'm busy setting up what I always call a vision, because it really, whatever it is that I'm doing right now, it came by inspiration from God. I'm setting up a college called Phronesis International College, but the college itself, it's set up in Goradimpi. It's a ward in Ramotswa. And that's where the college is. I'm setting it up. I've been doing this, setting up from 2016 up to now. It has been a whole lot of work, a process that I'm believing God that God is really helping us all the way to establish it. It's a tertiary institute that is accredited by Botswana Qualifications Authority to offer training, long-term training programs at certificate, diploma, and degree, as well as short-term and consultancy and research work. It's just a higher education training institute.
Mm-hmm. So professionally, you're an educator, an all-round educator.
Yeah, I'm an all-round educator. You can call me that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. In summary.
Yeah. So maybe if I take you back a little bit, tell us about who inspired you growing up, because you seem to be a very passionate person about everything that you do. You put in a lot of effort, a lot of energy. Who inspired you to be who you are?
Wow. Oh, interesting. I think my inspiration, if I remember very well, I think it came from my parents.
Yeah.
Sincerely, my parents are the ones who planted the seed for, especially for education. When I really look back, I can't locate any other person that has really fueled my inspiration. I think later on I can point one or two other people outside, but the inspiration to desire to learn, to desire to become, I look at it from primary level. My mother, my father, I think, truly speaking, in terms of apart from God, talk about people who are around me. These are the people that I would say inspired me or they motivated me. So I really, really think they are the ones who planted this seed of, being special in me and really providing the things that I desire, that I know otherwise, if probably they went all out to do far more for me, and I think my parents are my inspiration, really.
Yeah, that's really nice. So what did you study? Because I know that we didn't talk about what you studied at university, and I know you ended up going to the US also for your master's and then the UK for your PhD. So what did you study for your undergrad, master's, and PhD?
I started first with diploma in secondary education. I did 3 years diploma education, teaching, geography and English. Then I worked for a very short while as a teacher, and then I joined the Ministry of Education. Shortly after I joined the teaching, I got interested in guidance and counseling. So after like a short while in the Ministry of Education, I was identified to go for further training. And then I was given a scholarship to go to America. So I transferred, I went to America, went to Virginia Commonwealth University in Richmond, Virginia. So there I completed my BA in psychology. And then I went into counseling, did my master's in counseling. Then I came back, worked in the Ministry of Education. And then while working, I got a Commonwealth scholarship for my PhD, which was in the UK. And that is where you and I met.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we met.
Yes, yes. So it was a whole almost 3 to 4 years of, research work around counseling. I focused my research work around counseling, learners in who are affected by HIV/AIDS. But I did coursework, and then thereafter I went into research. Yeah.
So what was it like living away from home? I know you ended up taking one of your kids with you to the UK. What was it having one children with you and one back in Botswana?
It was not easy. It was not easy at all. I think that was, I would call that one of the most difficult times, because I had to juggle so many roles in me, transition to, into being a student. I had my daughter who was completing her secondary education. She was going to the university. So I had to, while all this is ongoing, I had to make sure I prepare for her, get her there. And I had my son, I had to bring him, to the UK. But finally I decided, I made a decision that he should come and join me, and we ended up together there. Yes.
Yeah, because that was a very interesting moment for all of us, because we ended up moving into one house with you, and you really a true mother to us. Like, I can remember so many memories with you that we were so spoiled. And then the last thing that I want to remind you is how, we are not perfect. We are kids. We were kids. You were our mother. We made mistakes. I made mistakes. But there was a way in which you would speak to me if I did something wrong, which was so loving. I remember one incident, which I don't want to talk about much, but I do remember that I did something and you called me to your bedroom and said, "Kay, this is not how you do things, my child." And these words have stuck with me forever. They've influenced how I make decisions about anything that I do in my life. So I really am grateful to have had an encounter with you. It's been a great 20 years. So anyway, I didn't want to stop you from telling us, but I just wanted to highlight some of these memories that I have with you. So maybe you can touch on a little bit or about transitioning from doing your PhD abroad and going back home. How was the transition of going back to work?
Yeah, the transition was it was not really bad because I already had a job because I was on study leave, so I was going back to the same place in the Ministry of Education, and I think they had been waiting also for quite a long time, because if you are on study leave, then it means one person is there but is not there physically. So my coming back, it was just going back to complement the staff, and I was heading the guidance and counseling division in the in the department. So it was an opportunity for me to go back with the knowledge and the knowledge that I had. Being a Commonwealth scholar, it gave me an opportunity to go back and make a difference in my country. And while in the UK, I had the opportunity to meet other scholars. We would meet, even have our own conferences. They would take us out for conferences. So I had learned a lot. I had quite a number of things that I had learned that I was ready to go back home to implement. So it was a good transition, and it was a good feeling, because I had been out there studying, stressed up, and going through all nights and whatever's, and it was a good feeling to be back home without all this pressure on me. So I was looking forward to it. I was excited. I think I even came at a time when there was a lot of things happening in the Ministry of Education. So it was exciting. It was just at the peak of my career. So much was going on. It was just a good place to be. And while that was ongoing, I had so much support around me, the staff that I was working with, and the whole complement of the Department of Curriculum. It was just a good time. I enjoyed my work. I enjoyed the coming back and just influencing the Ministry of Education in directing the guidance and counseling services in the country. But it was kind of short-lived. I think I was back home for like 2 years, and while that was ongoing, there's an institute in Malawi that is owned by the ministers of education in Africa, and now periodically, some of the experts in the region, we would go there to go and help with training in this area or that area, and come back for like 1 week and come back. And shortly thereafter, like 2 years after I came back, that institution, the management of that institution, felt they needed, a person of my caliber to come and just, liven up the place. Yeah. So the then, director, who is now deceased, may his soul rest in peace, Dr. Kenneth Hamwaka, together with the leadership that he was working with, they made a request to the Botswana Ministry of Education, to release me on secondment. Secondment means I'm still an employee of the ministry, but I'm seconded to that institute to go and help. So it took a very long time, back and forth, almost a year really of back and forth. But finally, the government agreed to release me to go to, Malawi. So I was there for basically 3 years, and yeah, then after 3 years, I felt, I had done my part in that institution, which was more or less, developing programs and facilitating the training of those programs, doing whatever it is just to deliver them to, to the member countries. There was a lot of learning, finding my way around the international community and what it takes to work in the international environment.
Yeah.
And then after 3 years, I came back. So I served for like 3 months after I came back. And by the grace of God, immediately after that, I found another job in South Sudan to go as a consultant, to go and help in UNICEF to support the education sector in developing the life skills and peace building program there. Very exciting, going into a conflict affected zone. It was new, but very challenging and very interesting. So yeah, I transitioned into that, and it was another level of engagement.
Yeah. So do you think that moving from one mission to another, especially in the education sector, also influenced? I know that Phronesis International College was also something that God sort of inflicted in you, but I also want to know if all of these experiences also stemmed everything and said, you know what, you can do this. Did it influence your establishment of the college?
Definitely.
And what was your vision when you thought, this is what I'm doing? What is the vision behind P.I.C?
It's like two questions in one. I'll answer the first. Yeah, the first one was, has all these experiences contributed to, the culmination of P.I.C? And it's a resounding yes. When I look back, I just recognize that all these, journeys that I took, they were preparation. In Malawi, I did a lot of programming, developing programs and delivering them. So it's more or less what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
Even in South Sudan, it was similarly the same thing, probably in a different way, because it was also about, working with the Ministry of Education, looking at the needs of the country, looking at them at, policy level, implementation level, training, and coming up with new intervention strategies that can influence, especially the peace building, element of the country. How to support the country to build a culture of peace, which means curriculum development was very important. I did a lot of work with the department that in the Ministry of Education that deals with curriculum development and other stuff. The UN just being there, it's another dimension of, you work with different people from different countries. You have to position yourself in understanding, different mindsets and different programmings and see how you interact with all of them. So I was learning and I was growing and I was maturing, I was building my confidence. And so in that respect, it was a way of preparing me for that.
Yeah.
So remind me the second part of the question again.
But the second part was, what was your vision, or what is the vision behind P.I.C?
What is the vision behind P.I.C? The vision behind P.I.C is to establish a center. I think, having worked in countries where conflict or in Malawi, dealing with, or let me just say, starting from Botswana, every country in Africa, it has got its own challenges, social, political, economic, transpersonal, spiritual. God just enabled me to see, through the psyche of you know, of the human mind, which I had studied, of course, in my education, but I was now living it, seeing it, how life really affects us, how, you know, we all go through different challenges, irrespective of whether, even when I was in America, whether I was in America, I was in the UK, I came to understand it doesn't matter where you are.
Yeah.
You know, people will always face challenges of life. My vision, even my training, you know, seeing people, I'm always seeing people in church, in my community, in my family. You know, there's just so much pain in life. And the vision has always been like, what can I do just to relieve the pain that people are going through? I've come to notice that, you know, like right now when I look at you, you know, God has made me to just come to understand that it doesn't matter how a person looks very nice. I'm looking at you and you're looking so beautiful. Eh? You look so beautiful. It's like, I want to say, you don't even have a problem, not even a
But I
single
have
one.
problems.
But God has enabled me to realize that it doesn't matter how we look.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter whether a person is in the highest level of authority or whether in the lowest level. You know, hierarchy does not matter, status does not matter, education does not matter, background does not matter. The richest person, the poorest person, the most educated, the least educated, the gender does not matter, whether you're talking about a man or a woman, whether we are talking about age, the elder, the oldest and the youngest. We are all going through one thing or the other. Sometimes you may have a lot of money, but it doesn't mean money will answer all your issues of life. So I always look at a person from, you know, the holistic, you know, sense of a being. You know, a being may have money, a being may have this or that, but there is always a vacuum that needs to be addressed. And until the totality of the human being is fully addressed, then there will always be a hunger, a cry, a desire for something. And it is that thing which God always, you know, enables me to see through when I interact with a person, to say, where is this person coming from? What are the issues? And I thank God, because God then taught me to even look at the spiritual side of the human being, because I came to understand that some people have everything except the spiritual element. And unless the spiritual element is addressed, that void, that emptiness will always cry out. And, you know, yeah, essentially the vision is all about, you know, establishing, you know, psychosocial support services that respond to the needs of people, to the trauma. Right now, we're going through COVID. No one has called COVID into our lives. You know, you don't go about and say, I want COVID. You find yourself, you have it. And then the next thing, your life completely changes as a result of this thing that is just nebulous and is moving around. And whether you like it or not, you are a part of it. Yeah. So there's always something that we are dealing with, irrespective of where you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, that's amazing. That was very powerful. I was gonna ask you, the next thing I was gonna ask you was about your ministry. And I know that God is really important to you. And maybe you can touch on a little bit about what you do in terms of your ministry. I know you've touched a little bit already.
Yeah. In terms of ministry, God has called me into the ministry of reconciliation, the ministry of peace. And you can write a whole book on that, because there's so many dimensions of reconciliation. With the call of God, God has called me to, to advance the same call that Jesus Christ, came to establish here on earth, which is to reconcile men back to God. Because we all know what happened in the Garden of Eden. There was a separation that, eternally set men apart from God. But Jesus Christ came to reconcile men back to God. So my assignment is to fulfill that which Christ has started. But based on my experiences and what God has caused me to go through in life, I'm realizing that fundamentally I'm called to reconcile men back to God. But this process of reconciliation, it is also about, because God allowed me, even from the psychological point of view, to understand the separation that happens even at personal level, the challenges that we go through. Sometimes as people, God then revealed to me that sometimes we are disconnected, not just from God, but as a human being, you walk around, but you walk around as a disconnected being. So part of the reconciliation is to reconcile man back with himself. And sometimes I realize, so the levels of reconciliation, the biggest level, of course, is man back to God. And then the other levels of reconciliation is the intrapersonal reconciliation, where a man is disconnected from himself, and part of the call is to say, find yourself. And also men can be disconnected from the other men. That is why we end up sometimes, husband and wife, you are together, but you are not together. You live together, but you are not together. Brother, sister, family, whatever. So men to men, there's also reconciliation that must happen there. Family, which is a group of people. Sometimes we live together as a group of people, but you are so disconnected, you still cannot connect with each other. So family, come back together. Community, you are living together in a community. Do you know each other? Do you know where you are? Come back, let's get together. So it keeps just expanding like that. And God even taught me a lot when I was doing the peace building, program in South Sudan, where I would find, and I think it happens everywhere. I'm just using South Sudan as an example because I happen to have lived there, but it's not exclusive to them. Even in Botswana, where sometimes you find tribal disconnections, where tribes are fighting against each other for one reason or the other, because there's a conflict that is happening between them. So that reconciliation has to happen. Sometimes it's between nations, and sometimes it's reconciling the whole universe. Right now, COVID has disconnected us. We are living, and for us to move, sometimes we get locked up in our own rooms. You are told you can't even move. You are in isolation. You stay in your room, stay there. So you are in a room and you cannot connect with people that are in the same room that you are with. Sometimes, it's locked down. You are locked in your own yard. You can only move around in your own yard. Sometimes you are locked in Botswana as a nation. Right now, I want to travel. I can't because I'm locked nationally. So God has just been exposing this reconciliation thing. So it has got all dimensions and all colors and shades, and the call is just to say, men, and right now God is even using this situation to even call the entire universe to say, look up to me, as all this is happening, let us be reconciled. In as much as God has given you the scientific knowledge, that scientific knowledge is resting on the knowledge of God. So God has put it in you, in a doctor, in everyone, so that you become the solutions of the world. So we cannot separate ourselves from the creator, and it's very much a part of what is going on right now.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. It's so funny that you brought God and giving us wisdom, even as scientists. I was laughing the other day at work when one of my colleagues was saying she's going for an interview to go into med school. And she was like, "Oh, Catherine, can you pray for me? I know God likes you." because every now and then when I'm doing my experiments or I'm running a gel, I'm like, "Oh God, you need to just give it to me." And they know that I believe in God. And I tell them, for me to get good results is because I pray.
Yeah.
So it is true what you're saying.
True. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So,
I've lived a life where I have totally depended on God, and it has just been a mystery. Ever since I got to know God, I'm just living a life that is just full of the mysteries of God. Like you say, I've seen God do things that I can only say this is just God. It has got really, I've got something to do with it in the sense that I'm a part of what God is using, but really the credit and everything, I just give it to him. Even all these opportunities that have been, granted to me, I know it has always been the hand of God singling me out because God loves us all, but definitely we need to position ourselves in the favor of God to be singled out for that favor. So,
sure.
yeah.
So, what can you say to your younger self? To
To
a
my younger
14-year-old
self.
Thelma.
Hmm. To my younger self, let me ask, what do you mean by younger self? Let me not, so that I can answer the question properly.
Okay, younger self meaning when you were 14 years old, what would we have said to yourself at that age
Oh,
for
oh,
you to
okay,
be where
okay.
you are today?
To
Are you
speak,
proud?
I need to.
Are you proud of the decisions that you took when you were younger to be who you are today?
The younger Thelma, 14 years old and growing up, I would say I love your focus. I love that you were focused even as early as, primary. She has made a lot of mistakes. She has done, good and bad things. And, of course, as a young person growing up, part of your learning is to make mistakes, so that you can even be able to learn from those mistakes. There's so many things that probably I could have done differently, but I want to believe that the purpose of God always takes you in a particular direction. To my younger Thelma, because at the time when I was young, I don't think I knew God the way I know God right now. I would have loved to have known God far more deeper at that time. But for a Thelma of 14 years today, I would encourage them, really seek the Lord, be grounded in knowing God, not just going to church. I know I used to go to church, but I don't think I really understood a lot of things. But if a younger Thelma can know God and know him very well, then they can do so well. They can even avoid a lot of mistakes, in their life, and live peaceably with other people. Make sure that you honor, your parents, you honor the leadership that is placed in front of you. That is, if you can have an ear that hears and listens and takes counsel and guidance, you will avoid a lot of things. You cannot, at 14 years, you can't live without the guidance of parents. So you need to recognize your parents, you need to respect them, you need to listen to them and have that supportive environment. The family and the people around, they matter so much. So be surrounded, be protected by, family, and know your roots, where you come from. Don't despise even the new beginnings, the little things that God is doing in your life. No matter whether your parents are, humble, just give them the honor. And when you honor your parents, you'll go far. Staying focused, knowing God and honoring your parents, I think are foundational things, Yeah.
So I just want to thank you so much for everything that you have done for me and many other people. I really want to thank you for being such a positive and powerful constant in my life. And I'm thankful to have you in my life. Truly, I'm really grateful. And sometimes I feel like I can't thank you enough. And I think we had this conversation 2 years ago when you visited me here.
Yes, yes.
I
And that
just
was that, I'll never forget that moment.
yeah.
You did so much. You took care of me. You are such a blessing. I'm actually, I feel like I've not said much about you. You have said more about me, but you have been such a blessing, Khei, in my life. Even from the time we were in Guildford, you stabilized me as well. Young as you are, focused as you are. In as much as you are learning from me, I was learning from you. You have been such a blessing. You are one of those people that have left an indelible mark in my life. And I thank God, truly, that you are in my life. I just can't begin to talk about you. When I came to the US, you just humbled me. You humbled me. You humbled me. Seriously.
Oh, Mom.
I'm
Today is
telling
about
you.
you. It's about you today. Thank you for making time.
Oh.
It's okay to cry. Those are the tears of joy, right?
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear.
It's okay, Mom. Don't. It's okay. It's just a way of us appreciating you for all of the hard work, your sleepless nights, and the support that you give everyone without looking at yourself. So God sees you, and our prayer is for God to give you more blessings, to bless you beyond imagination. And with that, I want to thank you for coming to my living room and having this conversation with me. I'm truly grateful for your time.
Amen. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mom.